A campaign that is intrinsic to the American experience, a fairly recent part of history, but has caused long, drastic ramifications. One of the questions that is rarely brought up is, were the effects of this campaign intentional, or was it coincidental and, quote-unquote, collateral damage? More and more people are agreeing that the aftermath created by all this was certainly egregious. But were the victims the intended targets? Don't get me wrong, being conspiratorial all the time certainly clouds your judgment. It makes you sound crazy. But when it comes to this case, you might be surprised.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
The conventional wisdom among Americans is that Nixon was the first president to officially declare a war on drugs. But if we go back even further, you can find that anti-drug laws have always been commonplace throughout American history. Whether it was the first anti-opium laws directed at Chinese immigrants, or the marijuana laws that are directed at Latinos and African Americans. It was clear governments in the past were much more open about their racist motives. So what was different about the Nixon administration and their drug policy, you might ask? If you're wondering, surely Nixon just wanted to do good for Americans and clean up the streets. Everything doesn't have to be about race or politics. Well,
there's an old quote from one of President Richard Nixon's advisors, John Ehrlichman, which has recently been dug up and been circulating around the internet. I'll read it in full. "You want to know what this was really all about?" Ehrlichman said to the reporter. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying. We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did.
President Nixon and his subordinates just so happened to operate much more covertly, and the whole thing was a conspiracy with political and racial elements to begin with. This aggressive political doctrine was the norm for every consecutive presidential administration. In order to achieve their desired results, the state did whatever it could to crack down on drugs, even if it was unethical. As a result, millions of lives were destroyed, billions of dollars were essentially wasted, and it created an endless, vicious cycle that just repeats itself. It was not until the Obama era that public opinion began to shift to a more health-based approach regarding drug policy. He was able to reduce mandatory minimum sentences between powder and crack cocaine, and allowed states to fully legalize marijuana. As of last year, Pew Research conducted a poll and found that 61% of Americans actually support legalizing marijuana at the federal level. Currently, the Trump administration has taken a non-intervention stance of states legalizing marijuana, but has made it clear legalizing it is not on his agenda. Progress is like trying to turn a ship. It's slow, difficult, and you'll meet plenty of resistance. So will the effects of the drug war be reversed, and could drugs be legalized anytime soon? Probably not. But it is refreshing to see that more and more people are coming to the conclusion that maybe locking up others for wanting to participate in an activity that isn't as harmful as we once thought isn't a good idea. So maybe compassion, instead of cruelty, is how we go about solving this problem.